What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today we're going to look at the highly anticipated Drink Osma machine. So the Drink Osma machine is a cold brew machine that makes your cold brew in less than 90 seconds. Now before we get into this, I would like to ask that you go ahead and hit the like, the subscribe, hit the notifications, all that good stuff. It really helps me with the channel, helps me get cool things like this to review for you. Anyway, let's continue with the review. So this is made by designer Joey Roth out in San Francisco. It was a brainchild he's been working on for the past few years, and it works in a really unique way, which we'll go over here in a second. But first, I just wanted to take a look at the design itself. It's really unique, really like minimalistic. It's honestly a little, it's like industrial in a way. Small footprint, weighs about 20 pounds. It looks really nice. I enjoy the look of it a lot. It has this anodized coating on it, which is interesting, and you can kind of see here, if you scratch with your fingernail or have anything bump up against it, it is going to show kind of those blemishes. But you just take a rag of some sort. I thought I had one beside me, but I do not. Wipe it off and it comes right off, so it's not a big deal. Whoop, right off screen, look at that. Boom. So it wipes right off, which is nice. But anyway, that's the kind of look of it. It comes with a portafilter that has what they say a 28-gram basket. I'm not it doesn't say on here. It seems to me to be more like 25, but I guess it could be 28. I've not been able to fit more than about 25 grams in it. We'll go over that more here in a bit. But it comes with this portafilter that has a split shot on the end, but you can pull that off. It comes with a leveler like this, which has, you know, can make it deeper or more shallow. And this is how they recommend to tamp the coffee into the bed. And it comes with a second straw that's a little shorter than this so that you can do what's called recirculation. We'll talk about that as well. And finally, it comes with a little hose so that you could plumb this in if you would like, or get it to like a consistent source of water. So that's the Drink Osma. That's what it comes with whenever you order this machine. All right, so now let's get into how does it work. So if we look at it from a profile view, up here we have what's called a diaphragm pump. Now the idea of extraction here is not, well, this is all according to them, by the way, is not the typical way of extraction. What happens is this straw sucks water into the system using this diaphragm pump, and then the pump releases the water to the coffee using essentially what's referred to as acoustic cavitation. So it's this idea of manipulating or of using the frequency to have the water match its frequency, and it creates these micro bubbles that expand and contract based off the frequency of the pump. Okay, so the way that the pump is pulling the water up and emitting it is doing it in this oscillating style, this sinusoidal, you know, oscillating frequency, if that makes sense. It's the reason I'm stumbling over my words is it's difficult to convey exactly the theory behind it, and of course I can't confirm or deny the theory. I'm just going strictly based off of how they're describing what's going on. So you have these waves of water that are coming out and these micro bubbles that have been formed that are expanding and contracting, and it's that expansion and contraction of those micro bubbles in the water from the frequency of the pump that is affecting extraction on the coffee bed, okay? Hypothetically. And so at the end, what you're going to get, and you'll see this soon, is this foam that looks like it's a nitro brewer, like a Guinness coffee or a Guinness beer, right? So you have this hazy cloud of bubbles in your coffee that kind of form into a foam head at the top. So we'll see that here in a bit, but that's kind of the idea of how this is affecting extraction in this machine and how it's different from other machines. So it's not just a typical pump like an Olka pump that's doing vibratory pumps, pushing the water at certain pressure. Instead, what it's doing is it is creating oscillations of water that are matching the frequency of the pump based off of the acoustics, right? What? I don't even, it's over my head. But that's what the website says, so we're going to go with it. Okay, so now that we have that in mind, let's go ahead and let's prep a shot and see how it works. So what they recommend doing is filling this up with anywhere from like 25 to 30 grams of coffee, and they say to do it at around 200 to 300-ish microns. So what they say is the coarser end of espresso is what their website says and what some of the videos I've seen them say to do. So spoiler alert, I've pulled 50-ish shots using this with all different types of coffee, and it is that range is somewhat accurate in that it is a huge range. Depending on the coffee, in order to get the parameters that they suggest, which is about 8 ounces out. I said that really would. And 8 ounces out in about 60 to 90 seconds. In order to get that, some coffees take it 220 microns, some 340 microns. So the spoiler is, it is a pain in the behind to dial in. I'm going to go ahead and pull a shot though, and we're going to talk about what happened in my 50-shot research and my thoughts on the machine. So give me a second, I'll prep the shot and we'll get going. All right, so I ground up 25 grams of coffee. I'm about to put it into the portafilter. Now they recommend when you're done with that, they don't show any type of distribution other than using this leveler. So when you have a massive amount in there, they say put this on and spin, spin, spin until it tamps it and until the edges are touching the edge of the basket, just meaning that it is fully tamped. So essentially they're recommending you distribute and tamp using this, which I'm assuming is an approachable way for anyone to do it without any, I guess, background experience. But of course, I am not going to do that because it is much more inconsistent whenever you're using this. Since we are doing espresso fine grinding, we need to have a little bit better distribution in order to have more consistent results. So, of course, me being extra, I'm going to take my WDT and we're going to use this. So I'm going to WDT just like I would with espresso, and then I'm going to give it a firm tap in order to get the fluffiness kind of collapsed. All right, here we go. Give a nice tap. Then I'm going to tamp it down. All right. So there's not much headspace in here, and I did 25 grams, okay? Not much headspace at all. But we're going to go ahead and give this a go. So you're going to lock it in just like on a normal group head. We're going to lock it in, get it up straight. And then what you got to do is we're going to take 1 cup. So what they recommend is when you make cold brew or cold espresso, you do what's called a single pass. So that means we're going to put a cup here with water in it, and then we're going to catch the water. We're going to catch the water, or the cold brew, into this vessel. All right. So what I'm going to do is fill this up with water, and we're going to do a single pass with the water. Now, what you can also do with this machine, and what it was originally kind of marketed as doing, is recirculating, so having a smaller straw and sticking the straw back into this cup so that as it makes cold brew, the cold brew is sucked back into the machine and goes back through the puck. But recently I noticed that they were suggesting doing single passes for their cold brew and espresso, and then when you make teas or anything else on this machine, you can do the recirculation. So for this, obviously I'm going to do a single pass, and we're going to look at this. So some things to note as we're watching is the initial 3 to 4 ounces or so are going to be extremely fast, all right? And then it slows up as that water has been absorbed into the puck. It slows down a lot, all right? So you're going to notice that. And also know that this machine itself has no heater or anything in it. So we're using room temp water. You can use cold water with ice cubes in it, but we're using room temp water, and it's going to pass through the packed bed of grounds. So here we go. I'm going to hit this button. There's only 1 button on the machine. We're going to watch it go. Here we go. So as you see, it comes out early, really, really fast, and then it starts to slow down. And the idea here is to get up to 8 ounces in about 60 seconds. So we've slowed down a lot now. We're almost at 7. Almost there. Slows down even more. And we are almost, I think I'm going to call it good. All right. So there we go. There's a little bit extra in there. So as you probably noticed, it's very odd, the flow rate. It comes out flat, like it comes out so fast. Within the first 2 seconds, you have 2 or 3 ounces already in your cup, which obviously that's not extracting much coffee. It's impossible in that short amount of time without any temperature to really extract much of anything. But it comes out and it has that cascading effect, as you saw. As you see right here, it's kind of like a Guinness, and as we let it sit, those bubbles are going to rise up to the top, just like a nitro, right? So we did 8 ounces in I don't know, it was about 50 seconds or so. Now, you might be like, oh, that is incredible. This is the second coming. But I have done this, like I said, I've pulled about 50 shots or so. The highest extraction yield I could get out of any of those was about 17%. I think I got 17.1% one time. So this is actually a very low extraction process. So you're sacrificing a lot by getting something this quickly. So anyway, let's go ahead and taste it. This is, it's pretty light, but we'll see. Smells like coffee, like a very weak coffee. I mean, it tastes as you probably would think it tastes. I would say this probably is sitting around a 1.5 TDS, and it's probably something like 15% extraction, maybe. So what I did see is I've seen them say, you know, you can get two TDS in 8 ounces, which is accurate, but 2 TDS in 8 ounces is roughly 17% extraction. So this is not going to be something that you can get a high extraction with. It's unless you or somehow use warm water, but I've not seen any recommendations anywhere of putting warm water through this diaphragm pump. Instead, I see room temp is the warmest that's recommended. And then yeah, and then you can do what's called an espresso shot, which I've also done, but the highest TDS I could get from that was about 5.5, and it was like a 14% extraction yield. So you're very much limited on those options, and I'll be just completely upfront with you. It is not easy to dial this in. And when I said there was that big range earlier, I mean there is a big range. I had dialed in one coffee to be pulled at about 280 microns, and then I switched coffees, and when I put that second coffee in, whereas I had it dialed in for 60 seconds for 8 ounces, when I switched coffees, it took about 8 seconds to get a full 8 ounces. And so I had to go all the way down to about 200 microns in order to make it in 60 seconds. So this is not the most intuitive machine. It's not the easiest to dial in if you're doing single pass method. I'm sure it'd be a lot easier if you did recirculation, but I've got worries about coffee grounds and other things getting through the pump, and I don't know about the longevity there. Now, whenever you do concentrated shots, it tastes a lot better, but you have to rely heavily on milk or on some sort of additive like alternative milks or things like that. So whereas this is a very cool product, it isn't really giving me the extractions I'm looking for in a cold brew or in an iced coffee, whereas a toddy can get you a little bit higher, 18, 19%, and like that flash brew style of brewing can get you a little bit higher. This is a cool, convenient way of making it. I'm not the biggest fan, but I'll say this: my wife loves it. So it's definitely it has its niche, right? It's quick. Yeah. So this machine is very unique. It's pretty. It's clean. It's fast, and it makes okay cold brew. But I think there's a pretty steep learning curve. As I said, it took me many shots in order to even get familiar with the machine itself. I had many misses when I was trying to dial this in. There's a huge range of dialing in, meaning like you could be anywhere from 180, 200 microns all the way up to like 350, 360 microns, and it switches vastly from coffee to coffee. So if you're someone that is trying to just have a specific way, like have a specific grind size where you're just popping your coffee in and doing it, and oh, you ran out of coffee, let's grab another coffee. You're going to take 3, 4, 5 shots to redial it back in. And considering these are 25 to 28 gram doses, that's a substantial amount of coffee to dial in a cold brew that's not even extracting that highly. So and on top of all that, the headspace is so minimal that I have noticed issues. So what has happened has been just a ton of channeling. So what they're recommending this 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, even 30 gram dose, the headspace is so minimal. And so what's happening is a lot of channels, and I'll actually put a picture right here of what a typical puck looks like for me. There are some big holes in it, which shows overt channeling, which is also going to affect the extraction. So I played with the idea of putting a puck screen on top, but because the headspace is so minimal, it actually warped my puck screen because of the screw in the screen. And I've tried putting a filter underneath to help increase hydraulic resistance. I've tried a lot of different ways to improve the product and to increase extraction, but the highest I could get was 17.1. Now, there is a way where you can hit the button for pre-infusion and then stopping, but even that, since it's not hot, it's not really doing too much to help in the pre-infusion. It does slow it down a little bit more because those grounds are absorbing the water and expanding. So it will slow your shot down, which will allow you to fix an improper grind size just a bit, but it still isn't really changing the extraction yield that much. I refracted 20 or 30 of these in the search of something higher, something sweeter. I've done 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I've done 4 ounces out, 6 ounces out, 8 ounces out, and they're all very similar. So whereas I think it's a very cool idea, I'm not really getting anything much different from a weak nitro cold brew in the end process. So I don't know. I've seen some really great reviews of it, so maybe I'm missing something here. But I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think about this. If you've tried one of these, what your thoughts are. If you think I've missed something in my methodology, let me know, and I'll happily update a video. But from all of my time doing, from just my trials and my errors and learning from the mistakes I've made, I've still not really found a way to optimize this to actually give me something that fulfills the desire I have for a different cold brew. Instead, this just feels like a toddy that's been sitting for 4 hours and you strained it, and it has some nice texture to it. Okay, well, and before I conclude, I do want to bring up, it also is, it can be pretty messy when you pull this out. If you watch, it drips everywhere because it kind of gets stuck in here. You can't really use a bottomless portafilter because at the beginning, it'll spray everywhere when it has that initial shock. If you go back and watch that shot I pulled, it comes out so quickly. And then you can kind of see the screw indent on this. This is actually a prettier puck than I've been getting. But as you see everything coming out, it's kind of a mess to deal with. And this thing, because it's that anodized coating, is a little difficult to clean. So overall, there's some things that I would like to see maybe change a little bit differently. But I do think it's a really cool product. I want to thank Osma for sending it to me. Again, my wife does enjoy playing with it, but like I said, a lot of these I found you have to kind of add milk to in order to really epitomize the drinking experience. So I've been adding a lot of like barista milk to mine, and it's been tasting a lot better. But as far as straight up, I'm not stoked on the product. So in conclusion, it's a beautiful machine, wonderfully made. I think it's a really unique theory behind the extraction process with that acoustic cavitation. I think it'll look great on your counter. And if you are into just, if you're into quick cold brews, this is going to fill that need. It just doesn't quite hit the mark for me as far as something that's unique and is effective. So whereas this is unique, it's not really giving me those extractions that I'm wanting. It's not really giving me the depth, the robustness of the richness of flavor that I seek. And yeah, so I mean, with the best results I did have were with really soluble, like really funky processed coffees that were, again, super soluble, and those had a little bit more flavor to it. But for the most part, I'm getting a nice texture. In fact, it's a really nice texture, but it's just lacking. It's lacking a lot of those intricate flavors that I'm hoping to have in a unique cold brew system. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was helpful if you are looking into getting one of these, or if you have one. Again, I am all ears. If there's a better way of brewing than I was observing, please let me know in the comments below, and I promise you I will take all those into account, and I will do them over and over again, because I want this to be really cool and really good, because I think it's beautiful. I think it's really unique, and I love how it's built. So anyway, thanks again. I hope you brew something tasty today, and cheers.